officials of the state government, officials of my ministry, distinguished guests. I'm not a scientist, so I can't tell you much about technology. But as a policymaker, how do I look at this issue? Well, we live in different Indias. The India that is gathered in this hall is very different from the India outside this hall. But as a policymaker, I should have the patience and the foresight to know where the world is going and where India should go. And I think it is but inevitable that a large part of the problems that we are confronted with as a nation can only be resolved if we take the technology route. We cannot wait for schools being built. We cannot wait for hospitals being built. We cannot wait for doctors going to patients in remote rural areas of this country. We cannot wait for teachers to be recruited to start going to school. We cannot wait for the rural folk to come to urban centers to sell their wares. We cannot wait for the fishermen to go out in the sea to find out if there is fish in the ocean or not, whether a particular part of the ocean has chlorophyll or not. We cannot wait for any of that. And the world is going to be connected in a much more significant way than ever seen in the history of the world. And man has moved away from the official forms of communication to the inanimate forms of communication. The language that we thought of as human beings to be able to communicate with each other was a language through which we could talk to each other. But the language of the 21st century requires not just Homo sapiens to talk to each other, but inanimate objects to talk to each other. The dead to talk to each other, so to say. That is the revolution that's taking place in the era, in the new era of the 21st century. And we are not able to fully understand as policymakers the enormous opportunities that we have to be able to grasp the future and to be able to dream for our children. And this is really a very, very serious issue. You can't talk of it in terms of moving from IPv4 to IPv6 and talking about the 340 trillion, 3 times over addresses that we will have. We know for a fact that the 4.3 billion addresses are not enough. But it's not enough to say that we will move from IPv4 to IPv6 and provide the addresses. So what if you provide the addresses? Unless you bring digital literacy to the classroom, what's the point of having these addresses? This is a holistic effort that we have to make as a nation. Your children have to be tech savvy. They are not going to take advantage of this movement from IPv4 to IPv6. And not only that, the children will be computer literate only when the political establishment understands the importance of IPv6. Do parties in this country, political parties, understand the importance of IPv6? Has industry actually gone to political parties to make them understand the significance of IPv6, the importance of IPv6? Has industry done that? Has FICCI done that? Has CII done that? Have we explained as officials to our political leaders why it's necessary? And this will only happen if we start manufacturing such stuff in India. We cannot afford to import all the solutions of IPv6 from the West. We need to find we need to recognize the problems, then find the solutions here, and give our children and our citizens the wherewithal of those solutions. If you want IPv6 to really proliferate, you need to manufacture the chip in India. You'll not be able to proliferate IPv6 solutions without the chip, which means you need a hardware industry. We are moving forward in setting up fab units, but we need hundreds of non-fab units. How are we going to get there? That's the real challenge. The real challenge is, this is all in the air. This is at the top of the pyramid. We need to move to the bottom of the pyramid. And how do you meet that challenge? You meet that challenge by first convincing political parties and leaders that it's important to give a big thrust to hardware in this country. We must manufacture the tablet at home. We must manufacture the chip at home. All our designs on the chip must be Indian designs for Indian solutions. We should reach out to the West to be able to get that technology if we don't have it. We should give incentives to technologies leaders of the world to come here if we don't have. If it's going to take 5 years for us to get that technology, it's no good. Because in 5 years, the world would have moved ahead and we'd still be there. So we need those solutions today. Or we need to have that technology transferred if necessary. We need to give incentives to industry to make sure that they give a fillip to manufacturing. So we need the chip here, we need the product here, we need the components here, we need the materials here. And we need to proliferate them. And we need the investment. And this cannot be done without foreign direct investment. We should encourage that. So we need to change the mindset with which we think about the world today. We are extremely insular in our thinking. Because we don't realize that if we do not provide these solutions for our children, we'll not be able to solve the problems of tomorrow. And remember, IPv6 is perhaps the greenest platform in the world. It is the greenest platform. Because when inanimate objects are able to talk to each other, you can find out, what is being consumed more, how much less it should be consumed, where electricity is being wasted, where your raw materials are being wasted. If there is mining activity, where the filings are being wasted, you can know the quality of those materials to put them to best use. This is all communication with inanimate objects, between inanimate objects. It's the new formula of communication for the world. A communication where we don't talk to each other, but the dead, the inanimate, talk to each other. And we have, as human beings, invented that language. That's the beauty of it. We have invented and we'll continue to invent new forms of language as we move forward. And as Farooqi Saab rightly said, that Bhatnagar also rightly said, the issue is content. Ultimately, our problems are our problems, and they're not going to be solved by anybody outside the boundaries of this country. They have to be solved by us, and by a language of which the architecture must belong to us, and through materials which would be manufactured by us, and through a system of communication for which the infrastructure might be built by us. And this is all to empower us. So I am not too impressed about figures and numbers and addresses. I will be impressed only when we as a nation decide that if we need to grasp the opportunities of tomorrow, we have to understand the problems of today and of the future. And can you imagine, I've in fact talked to the Information and Broadcasting Minister just the other day, and I said, we need to move to convergence of technologies. Because unless we have put that convergence in place, this will not happen. Convergence means communication between all devices that we have, whether it's the mobile phone with the TV set, or my mobile phone with some other device like your iron, your refrigerator, your air conditioner, whatever, your car, your automobile, your air conditioning systems. Now, in order to do that, we need the convergence bill to be passed. Who will pass the convergence bill? We have several hurdles in front of us. Number one, somebody has to understand what convergence means. Then somebody has to understand what convergence will deliver for us. Then somebody has to understand what kind of legal framework should we have. then somebody should understand that we should not stop coming to the well of the house on a daily basis, that no legislation should be passed. How do we make people in this country understand that we are at the cusp of a new revolution? And if we do not seize the opportunities today, we'll be by the wayside. The political future of this country will not be built by coming to the well of the house. It will be built by debating these issues in Parliament. What use is it to people? So imagine if you have a land bill passed, assume, I'm just giving an example, have land bill passed, you can actually get all the data of all land records on your IPv6 network. And with the click of a button, you can get anything you want to, whether it's sale of property, getting titles, this, that, and the other. You don't have to go to anybody. You can have systems in place. You don't have to have a policeman stop your car and say, I'm giving you a ticket for violation of your traffic. It'll automatically happen. The moment you cross a certain speed, it'll be recorded and your bank account would be debited for the fine that you have to pay, and you don't need a traffic policeman for that. And if there is unauthorized use of electricity in some parts, and it is in every part of every city, you'll get to know who is using it unauthorizedly. And there'll be no debate on meters, and the meters are not being read properly. All the debits will take place without everything will happen automatically. And your account will be debited for the cost of the energy that you have consumed. There'll be no debates, very little litigation. Half of the litigation is that mera bill theek nahi hai. Who will prove what? It is all technology that will prove everything. You need to remove the human interface and let inanimate objects talk to each other. And this will happen through sensors. This will happen through a new language of communication. That's what we need to do. So the point that I'm making is, congratulations for starting to build the infrastructure. Congratulations for recognizing the need to move from IPv4 to IPv6. Congratulations for this seminar, and I'm sure that all of this will be discussed during the course of the day. But I will only congratulate you when the ecosystem for IPv6 is ready to be launched. And let's hope that next year, when we meet, we have taken a leap forward in this direction. Good luck and thank you.
We recognize that transition to IPv6 is something which requires very, very active support and involvement of the industry. Well, internet, which has been viewed for a long time as a source of information, is today developed into a very effective medium for delivery of various citizen-centric services like e-governance, e-commerce, internet banking, etc., and has increasingly established reach in remote and rural areas, thus bridging the digital divide. But at the same time, it has also thrown up new challenges, and I think the lack of adequate number of addresses is one such challenge. Transition from IPv4 to IPv6 was in part necessitated by that. But IPv6 is not just about addresses. It's also about applications which take advantage of the new features which have been built into the protocol. It's basically an infrastructure technology and cannot succeed in isolation without the applications that run on it. The IPv6-based innovation would include areas like rural emergency healthcare, teleeducation, smart metering, smart grid, smart building, smart city, and so on.